Good morning, New Vision Center. I'm Reverend Leslie Goodwin. I'm your associate minister, part of your amazing ministerial team that just lives to love you up. And I'm delighted to be with you today. We are completing today a series of messages that are based on the 10 spiritual principles identified by Centers for Spiritual Living. And the hope is this, the promise is this, that if you know those 10 principles, you've got the heart of the teaching of science of mind. And Reverend Karin has added this extra level to the promise that if you embody these principles, if you actually work them in your life, that your life will change. That's her promise, and I'm doubling down on it. If you work these principles, life does change. And so we have gone through these lists of things like creation, how do things come to be? The creative process, how do we create things in our lives? We have talked about the nature of heaven and eternal life. We've talked about oneness and how God is made of mind, body, spirit. Humans are made of mind, body, spirit. We are that which it is. And we've got 3 qualities left. So I'm going to give you one guess what we're talking about today. The 3 qualities that are left. You got it. You got it. What a cliffhanger. I know. What a cliffhanger. So today's talk is called As Above, So Below. Because when I looked at the 3 qualities that were left, that was the phrase that jumped out at me. As above, so below. Which is a classic metaphysical phrase. So let's talk about metaphysics. Metaphysics is metaphysics is metaphysics. So that's all sewn up for you, right? We have a little bit of a tendency as humans to think our metaphysics as metaphysical Christianity or metaphysical spirituality, depending on how you prefer to look at this teaching, that this is something that we understand, metaphysics, that the creative process, we press our thoughts into the law of cause and effect, and it comes back to us. We get this, right? But sometimes we think that that's different than the metaphysics of the New Age folks, or the metaphysics of the witchcraft folks, or the metaphysics of the high Western ceremonial magic folks, or the metaphysics of the Zoroastrian folks, or the metaphysics of the Kabbalah folks. And guess what? It's not. Laws are laws are laws. And metaphysics, physics is how movement works. It's the science of how movement works, right? In the physical world. Metaphysics is the science of how energy works in the spiritual. And just as Ralph pointed out in that reading, we find the most interesting thing. We read teaching after teaching after teaching through time and countries and beliefs and completely seemingly unrelated faiths. And guess what shows up in all of them? The same laws, the same metaphysics. There's a little saying in Science of Mind. Ernest Holmes liked to say, never ever take something away from somebody that is working for them. That is unkind. And why? Because do we believe Science of Mind is the only way? No. There's infinite ways to get there. Every path leads to the one. Every path leads to the depth if we keep walking the path. So this phrase, as above, so below, in metaphysics shows up. The myth is that it was originally on an emerald tablet carved by Hermes Trismegistus in mythical ancient Egypt. Nobody ever showed me an emerald tablet, but that sounds cool. And the idea is, as above, so below. What is in the divine is manifest in human form, and that which we do in human form affects and influences the energetic of the entire universe. Where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, in Science of Mind, and also literally everywhere else. So I always think it's a really good sign that we're on the right track to deep wisdom when that which shows up in our teaching shows up in a whole bunch of every other really wonderful places. So we're in good stead. Now, when we dig into this idea of as above, so below, we get flip sides of that, right? As above, as the divine is, so below, so am I. Easy, right? Easy to anchor into that. That just sounds juicy and lovely, and we can count on it. But if as above, so below, then as below, so above. If we wish to see a change out in the grander world, where does it have to originate? Right here. Again, where have we heard this teaching? Right here in Science of Mind and a bunch of other really wonderful places. So we are on the good track. And, we turn to things like literature or writings from many, many faith traditions, and they say the same thing. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the wonderful French writer, said, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience, we are spiritual beings having a human experience," which is almost exactly the Edgar Cayce quote that Ralph read today. And if you go Googling that concept, you'll find it under hundreds of writers. Ernest Holmes, the founder of this particular teaching, said, "Change your thinking, change your life," which is a phrase that is credited to at least 30 other writers that came after him, and God knows how many people said it before him. Why? It's the truth. When we change our thinking, we change our life. So, why did all of this come up? Why did as above, so below come up when I was looking at the 3 principles that are left? Well, here's the deal. The first 2 principles that showed up for me were love and spiritual laws. So we're going to dig into each of those. But let's just take a moment. Love and spiritual laws. Perhaps you have run across an understanding in Science of Mind that God is love and God is law. God is love and God is law. So let's hold that concept somewhere back here in the back of our mind. Hold it loosely and explore what we're calling love and what we're calling law in Science of Mind, and see if that lands for us. Love. According to Centers for Spiritual Living, and we're all going to take a breath because it's these Centers for Spiritual Living definitions, so you know they're dense. We're ready, right? We're in it? Love is the self-givingness of universal spirit through its desire to express itself in terms of creation. Love is the impulse, and law is the way of creation. Love is the self-givingness of universal spirit through its creation. Love is the self-givingness of spirit. If we bring it all the way to just that, love is the self-givingness of spirit. I invite you to allow to rise up within yourself a time when perhaps things were not going great. And yet something in you knew, I'm going to survive this. I'm even going to thrive through this. I am okay. I'm going to be okay. Can everybody put neurons on an experience of that? It's so interesting because very often in those circumstances, it's difficult to explain to the people around you why you are calm or why you are functioning, because it's ephemeral, it's intangible, it's internal, and it's mystical. Inherently, those things that are mystical are difficult or even impossible to put into words. But when we sense love, we know it. When we sense love, it resonates within us in a way that is undeniable, indisputable, inarguable. It's the truth. Nobody could ever take it away from us or really even question us in a way that meant anything when we feel the love of the divine on the inside. It can feel like awe and passion. It can feel like grace. Whenever I think of it in the context of grace, I think of practitioner Vernice Reyes saying, like the honey pouring over my soul, the coating any rough edges and covering up anything that's ever been wounded and soothing me at a level that is beyond explanation. Isn't that a lovely way to speak of that? This is what the love of the divine is. This is what the self-givingness of the divine is on the inside of ourselves. It is inherent to the nature of that which we call divine to love us, to be loved. But here's the thing. It's not love like we understand love as humans, because it is unconditional. Not the human kind of unconditional where we try really hard to say we're unconditional, but really we have a big long list of expectations and God forbid you don't do the things on the list. Actually unconditional. And to be truly unconditional, we must be without opinion. So here we have this consciousness, energy, I never know quite what to call it. It's not really a person. It's not a personality. It doesn't have a preference on how we behave other than it wants us to be us fully. Its only priority is expression, life-affirming expression. What it doesn't have opinions on are things like what we do for a living, who we love, what church we go to, if we go to a church, what we believe, where we go, what we wear, do we have tattoos, do we run naked through the park? The police care about that one, but God does not. And we can catch ourselves in a little trap of what would God want me to do? And in science of mind, in metaphysics, as a general rule, the idea is God wants us to express fully who we really are. Which sounds kind of like God wants us to go to therapy and figure out what that is and then do it. Love is the self-givingness of universal spirit through its desire to express itself in terms of creation. And here's the deal, folks. We are that creation. How does God express itself in terms of its creation? Through us being ourselves all the way, even if it's ridiculous. And if you expressing you is chill and calm and serious and composed, how delightful for you. I might try that someday, but I probably won't. That would be inauthentic for me. Spirit wants us to be ourselves. Love is the impulse, and law is the way. Love is the impulse. Y'all know the impulse, right? In my world where everything operates as sock puppets in my consciousness, the impulse is like the passion that comes up from the inside and must do the thing, right? It's what drove me to do ministerial school. It's what flings me headlong into creative projects. It's what sends me running into Reverend Karen's office at least 3 times a day, like Kramer from Seinfeld. Bingo cards. For me, the impulse is, it bursts forth. And I suspect as you giggle at my demonstrations, you're connecting to what the impulse feels in you. And this is how we love Spirit back, is we learn what that message feels like and we respond to it. When we get the ooh, we do the It shows up for me often like, somebody should, right? You know what somebody should do? Somebody should get to the border and take care of those folks. Somebody should go sit in that courtroom to support that person who's fighting for their human rights. Somebody should. Who's somebody? Whoever those words come out of their mouth, that's the somebody. That's the somebody. The self-givingness of the divine is the desire to express itself in terms of creation. People ask me, how can there be a God that would let things happen like a shooting in Los Angeles? I can't believe in a God that would allow that. The God I would believe in would do something about it. Really? How would the God you believe in do something about it? The God I believe it is in the process of doing something about it by bringing that idea through your mouth, friend, and inviting you to be that person and to connect with the other people that are having those thoughts and to step in to that impulse. Love is how we be metaphysics. Love is the consciousness of being a metaphysician. So what's the doing side? The doing side is spiritual laws. This is the game rules. I mean, I would think it would be very interesting to see how you all would play Monopoly if you never read the game rules. My kids liked to make up their own rules, and it usually involved them eating at one of the little hotels and taking all the money and then trying to buy candy in my kitchen with it. There are game rules to this thing that we call life, and they are spiritual laws. So let's look at what Centers for Spiritual Living has to say about these spiritual laws. Universal spirit maintains harmony, equilibrium, and balance through spiritual law. There are various expressions and uses of spiritual law. For example, the law of correspondence, the law of attraction, the law of giving and receiving. Spiritual laws are impersonal, consistent, and intelligent, and are always operating. Consciously, individuals can learn to use these laws to create or change conditions. I'm grabbing this tissue because I believe that I will not sneeze if I picked up the tissue. It worked. Oh my gosh, that was genius. One does not like to sneeze when one is mic'd this close to mouth and nose. Okay. Universal spirit is maintaining harmony, equilibrium, and balance through spiritual law. How do these laws maintain balance and harmony? They've given us some very key points here. Impersonal. Well, we just went through how the love is unconditional and unopinionated, impersonal. The law is impersonal as well. It works the same for everybody. It's like gravity. I absolutely love Penny. I do. You're lovely. But if she drops an apple, it's hitting the floor. Gravity. It works the same for everybody. Is the apple going to hit the floor if she said something a little rude to Glenda at home before they came to the center? Yeah. Is gravity going to go, no, she's not behaving herself today. No gravity for Penny. Glenda gets all the gravity. It's silly, right? It's silly to think of it that way. And spiritual laws are the same way. They work the same for everyone. They're impersonal. They're consistent. They always operate the same way. They're intelligent, meaning they know how to do whatever the thing is. Gravity knows how to suck things toward the core of the earth. It's real good at it. Nobody has to teach it. Nobody has to call it and remind it. Don't forget to hold things in the general direction of the center of the earth. Leslie's floating away again. Hold her down. It always works, and it knows how to do the things it says it will do. It's always operating. So let's pull back for a moment and look at things like the law of attraction. This decade's absolute favorite spiritual law. Every decade gets its own, I think. We're really into the law of attraction, that our thoughts are calling forth experiences that match up to those thoughts. When we think, my husband's going to do the thing again. My husband is going to, I am so sorry, honey, sing the chant in my ear like this. I am not making this up. I am opening my heart to love in my ear to make me laugh. When I think Bobby is surely going to low-key misbehave in service today, putting that thought into the law, what have I manifested? I've manifested a husband that loves to low-key misbehave to entertain me and keep me from being too terribly serious. when I am pressing in something that feels, that's neither negative or positive, that's just funny. Something that feels positive, we're very conscious. Something that's intentional, we're very conscious and we know, okay, I'm pressing and I am getting healthier and healthier every day into the law, and I know it's happening, and we get to watch it happen, and it's awesome, yes? But then we kind of want to pretend like when we say, oh, people are just kind of jerks, that we're not also pressing that into the law. But it's consistent, it's always working. Everything we think and say is getting added into the law. And so we get some evidence of people seeming like they might be jerks because we get to be right. Why do we get to be right? Because the universal law always works. But I'm a good person that is spiritual. I know, because I have all the right books. And I maintain an office in a church, so it's got to be true. So surely the law knows not to listen to my bratty thoughts and only to listen to my good ones, right? Nope, it's impersonal. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. It doesn't have a mechanism for caring. It just data in, data out, data in, data out. It's like a computer. It's like a computer. So the hard part is it's like a computer. Data in, data out, and it doesn't care. But the good news is it's like a computer. Data in, data out. It doesn't care. We just need to know that and to use it to our advantage. Conveniently, we can do that because laws are how we do metaphysics. Love is how we be metaphysics. Law is how we do metaphysics. And those are the two pieces of the divine. The love, the presence, the consciousness, the heart opening, expansive, holding us close, soothing, supporting, uplifting, impulse from within, love. And the how, the steps that illuminate themselves, the ways connections seem to form, and the right person calls me and everybody knows what to do, and somehow the money just shows up. Always so interesting to watch. That's the law side. Together. Two aspects of the same consciousness. And people say to me, but Leslie, that doesn't make sense. How can God be law and love? Those things don't even go together. They don't match. They're not even friends. They don't even join the same Facebook groups. How can this be? And then I say, you know, sure they do. Sure they do. Ernest Holmes said it this way. He said, love points the way, and law makes the way possible. Love tells us where we are to go, how we are to be, and law lines it up and makes it so. And for anybody who's still struggling with the idea that two such different sort of consciousnesses can live at the same time, I want to talk about my friend Mark. So Mark, I just think, is a really good example of this. We know Mark as an amazing composer and musician, right? We get to enjoy his New Thought music all the time. He plays multiple instruments. He writes like a dream. I wish I could write as fast as he does. It's amazing. Creates all of his own orchestrations. He's so creative, and it comes up from the inside of him. It's a unique way of showing up in the world. Mark is also the center's IT guy. He understands computers and technology in a way that is so embodied that he's able to kindly and peacefully talk me through turning my touchpad back on when I'm just like, broken. Just bro, it has failed forever. Two really different ways of showing up in the world, right? In the same being. We are used to this in the people that we know and love. If as above, so below, then as below, so above. Of course, the divine can have multiple, seemingly contradictory aspects at the same time. It is the divine paradox. And so finally, our last spiritual principle is spiritual beings. And Centers for Spiritual Living gifted us with this. The one infinite reality is both transcendent and immanent. Transcendent and immanent. Individual beings are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe, having a human experience. This is our true nature. Love is how we be metaphysics. Law is how we do metaphysics. But at the end of the day, we are metaphysics. We are the creation that God is expressing as. We are the way love shows up on this planet. We are the ones utilizing the laws. We are not just metaphysicians, but we are metaphysics. So this is the invitation. These principles that we've studied for the last 4 weeks, they give us the map. They give us the map to understand the teaching. But none of that has any value if we don't actually use the map. And I don't mean roll it out on the table and look at it and talk how pretty it is. I mean go on an adventure. As we move forward through this year, we're going to keep talking about this idea of a map and going on an adventure. So this is the invitation. Start planning your next adventure in metaphysics. You are ready. You are ready, and the world needs you. And so it is. Let us anchor this in with some prayer. How good it is to simply know. To know that there is this one infinite reality that we call the divine, we call God, we call the beloved, we call it by whatever name makes sense to us in the moment. But what's essential is that we do, in fact, call it from the inside out, connecting with that high energy of unconditional love, of absolute trust, of pure truth. How good it is to know that in that, indwelling each one of us is peace. The peace that passes all understanding and all need to try to explain. The pure, pure wholeness that shows up as health and wellness and balance and expansion. That we are each already the abundance of the entire universe, that pouring through us is more than enough of every good thing, forever and ever expanding. What I know is that whatever was on our hearts or minds as we entered this sacred space, both in the sanctuary and on the online campus, that we can turn it over in this moment to Infinite Spirit and know that it is being handled powerfully, using those laws that always say yes, to know that the universe loves us enough, that it wants us to turn it over so that we can go back to focusing on fully expressing the absolute divinity that we already are so powerfully, so beautifully, that it transforms the energy of those around us so that people that just sit in our general vicinity notice that they are being healed. We have this power. And we are invited to be the love through law every single moment. And so with a grateful heart for all of this good, I simply call it delightful and know it's done as we say together, and so it is.